The morning light spilled across Los Angeles International Airport, bathing the terminal in soft gold. It looked calm, almost peaceful. But beneath the surface, something tense stirred. Naomi Sinclair stood at the entrance to Gate 24, her posture refined and steady. Her navy blue coat fit her like armor, the silk scarf around her neck catching glimmers of light with each movement. She was the picture of quiet strength, a woman who commanded respect wherever she went. Her hand rested lightly on the handle of her mahogany suitcase, the same way one might grip a truth they refused to let go of. She had traveled across continents, built an empire from nothing, and stood in boardrooms that others could only dream of entering. But today, as she approached the gate counter, she sensed something off, a flicker in the air, an old, familiar chill. "Good morning," Naomi greeted, sliding her boarding pass across the counter with a faint smile. The gate agent, a young woman named Chloe Patterson, barely looked up. Her painted nails clicked against the keyboard before she let out a small, sharp laugh. "Quite the accent you've got there," Chloe said, her tone sugar-coated with something sour underneath. Naomi's smile faltered slightly. "Is there a problem with my seat?" Chloe didn't answer right away. Her eyes skimmed over Naomi, assessing her like she was reading a file she'd already decided she didn't like. Chloe murmured. "Looks like you've been reassigned. You're in economy now, seat 44E. Naomi blinked, her calm expression hiding the slow fire building inside. "There must be a mistake. I booked seat 2A, Chloe's grin tightened. "Sometimes the system corrects itself. Must have been an error. Happens all the time. But it wasn't the system that made this correction. It was the smirk that lingered on Chloe's lips, the way her co-workers exchanged glances, half-smiles flickering like sparks of shared amusement. Naomi stood quietly, her silence cutting through the noise. Around her, the line of passengers grew impatient, a few muttering under their breath about delays. She could feel their eyes, judging, assuming, dismissing. This wasn't new. She'd faced it before, dressed in different disguises. Boardroom skepticism, hotel desk misunderstandings, subtle exclusions wrapped in politeness. But today felt different. She leaned in slightly. "Could you please call your supervisor?" Chloe exhaled, the way people do when they want to make sure everyone sees their irritation. "Sure," she said, tapping her earpiece. "We'll see what we can do." Naomi waited. 1 minute, then 5, then 10. The crowd behind her grew restless. She stood tall, unbothered, her dignity unshaken. A young staffer finally appeared. Lucas, his badge slightly crooked, his nerves visible. He leaned toward Chloe, whispering something Naomi wasn't meant to hear. But she caught the words anyway. "They said she doesn't fit the brand image. Better to have her seated." Farther back, it landed like a slap, cold and deliberate. Naomi's expression didn't change. She just nodded once, calmly, as if she'd been expecting it all along. As the others carried on, Chloe tapping keys, passengers boarding, announcements echoing through the terminal, Naomi simply stood there. The stillness around her wasn't surrender. It was calculation. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She glanced down at the message from her assistant. Just one word: ready. Her lips curved slightly, not into a smile, but into resolve. This wasn't about a seat anymore. It wasn't even about Chloe. It was about something much larger. The quiet ways dignity gets stripped from people who refuse to bow. Naomi stepped aside, found a seat near the window and watched. Watched how the others avoided her eyes, how the same gate agent who had humiliated her greeted the next passenger, a man in shorts and sandals, with fake warmth. Every detail registered, filed neatly away in her mind. The storm she was preparing to unleash wouldn't start with yelling. It would begin, as it always does, in silence, the kind that unsettles, the kind that waits until the right moment to strike. Chloe thought she had won this round, that she'd reduced Naomi to another invisible traveler pushed aside, without consequence. But Naomi Sinclair was no ordinary passenger. She was the storm they never saw coming, and the reckoning she carried wouldn't arrive with noise, it would arrive with precision. As the final boarding call echoed through Gate 24, Naomi rose from her seat. Her phone buzzed again. Another message appeared. Phase 1 complete. She adjusted her scarf, picked up her suitcase and whispered under her breath, "Now, let's begin." The gate might have closed, but the storm Naomi set in motion was only opening its wings, and before the day was done, careers, systems, and reputations would fall silent under its weight. The sun had shifted high over Los Angeles by the time Naomi's plane touched down in Denver. Her movements were calm, deliberate, the way one moves after already knowing the end of a story. The chaos of the morning was behind her, at least for everyone else. But for Naomi Sinclair, it was only the beginning. In her private office overlooking the city skyline, Naomi placed her phone on the desk and opened her laptop. Dozens of messages blinked to life across the screen. Her legal team, her public relations director, and the compliance leads from her corporation, Coleman Global. Her voice was steady as she began issuing quiet instructions. "Freeze all active contracts with Continental Air," she said softly. "No renewals until further notice. And I want our diversity and ethics review accelerated across all partner vendors. No exceptions." There was no anger in her tone, only precision. The message traveled fast, from her office to partner firms, to corporate lawyers, to investors. What the airline thought would remain a private humiliation was already becoming a silent corporate tremor. Meanwhile, at the Denver terminal, the first cracks began to show. The gate agent, Chloe Patterson, sat stiffly in a conference room with 2 compliance officers and her supervisor. The sterile air hummed with tension as she tried to explain. "I followed protocol," Chloe said, her voice trembling. "The system reassigned the seat." "Except there's no record of a system error," one of the officers interrupted, his gaze cold. "Every override was manual. Yours." Chloe's fingers fidgeted with her pen. "It wasn't personal. He leaned forward. "You just what? Decided she didn't belong there?" Her voice broke slightly. "I didn't think it mattered." Across the glass wall, Lucas, the junior staffer who'd overheard everything, watched in silence. His stomach twisted with guilt. He had seen the wrong and done nothing. Now the system that had trained him to stay quiet was collapsing around him. Hours later, when his shift ended, Lucas didn't go home. He opened his laptop in the staff lounge and wrote a detailed internal report. Every word of what had happened at Gate 24. Every instruction, every whisper, every glance. It wasn't an act of rebellion. It was an act of conscience. Grace, the young flight attendant who had seen Naomi's calm strength, lingered near the departure gate long after her shift too. Her heart was heavy with regret. She had wanted to speak up, to say "I'm sorry," but fear had sealed her lips. Now she knew silence wasn't safety. It was surrender. She sent a short email to corporate HR that night. "An incident occurred at LAX this morning involving a first-class passenger who was intentionally reassigned due to perceived image issues. I witnessed the exchange and believe it violated our conduct standards. I am willing to cooperate with any internal review." For the first time, she felt lighter. Back in Denver, Naomi's office was quiet. She scrolled through her assistant's updates. Travel vendor suspensions, partnership withdrawals, internal reviews initiated. Every move she made was quiet but seismic. She wasn't tearing anyone down in anger. She was exposing a culture, one that believed it could demean her and walk away untouched. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from an unfamiliar address. "I saw what we did and I didn't stop it. I'm sorry." Chloe Patterson. Naomi read it twice, her expression unreadable. Then she placed her phone face down. She didn't reply. Some lessons didn't need words, only consequence. By nightfall, the airline's leadership was in crisis mode. A sudden wave of partner cancellations had frozen their premium client pipeline. Senior managers whispered about reputation risk, though no public story had surfaced. The company's silence, the same silence it once used to cover injustice, was now suffocating them. And Naomi? She wasn't celebrating. She was preparing the next step. Days later, in a secluded retreat outside Boulder, Naomi gathered a circle of leaders, advisors, and community figures. There were no cameras, no press releases, just conversation. "We're not here to repair the system," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We're here to rebuild it." Her words carried through the room like a promise. Accountability isn't punishment. It's structure. Dignity isn't charity. It's foundation. If the institutions we depend on can't honor that, we build new ones. Heads nodded around her. Some took notes. Others simply listened. It wasn't a meeting. It was the birth of a movement. As the night deepened, Naomi stood near the window, watching the reflection of the mountains in the glass. The lights of Denver shimmered in the distance, the same city that once tried to silence her. Her assistant approached quietly. "Everything's in motion," she said. Naomi nodded. "Good. Then let's make sure they understand. Silence has a price." She turned back toward the room filled with her team, her allies, and the new future forming quietly among them. The world would never see the exact moment the scales tipped, but she would. Because she had made it happen. The woman they tried to humiliate had rewritten the rules, and this time she wasn't waiting for permission. As the first snow dusted the peaks above Boulder, Naomi's phone vibrated one last time. A headline flashed across the screen. Continental Airface's major partnership collapse following internal ethics breach. Naomi smiled faintly. The storm she unleashed had finally arrived, and this time, it wasn't leaving until justice had a seat in first class.